Aha, I hear you now.
Okay, great. Fabulous. All right,
We're good to go.
I believe so.
We're live.
Yes.
All this technology.
Exactly.
Welcome to this evening's meeting. I show just a little past 7 as I call it to order. The roll call. We're still doing this. Diorio here.
Relwitz here.
Lindelof here.
Light here.
Wales here.
Shamshinia here.
Very good. Pre-roll for April 6th. Diorio plans to be here.
Relwitz plans to be here.
Lindelof plans to be here.
Light, yes.
Wales, yes.
Shamshinia, yes.
Minute approval extension request pursuant to RIGL 4246-7B1, February 2, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
Hello, so I'm going to put my clerk hat on now, and I'm going to request that you allow me a little more time to complete the minutes from the February meeting.
And there was a formal document. Is that true?
Might have
not?
been- I might have included it. I might not have.
Minutes
I
from,
might not have.
minutes from February 2, yes.
Oh, I did include it. Yes.
So we have a request to grant an extension. Can I have a motion to that effect?
I'd like to make a motion that we grant the extension.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have lots of seconds. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, Diorio, yes.
Relwitz, yes.
Lindelof, yes.
Light, yes. Cecil, yes.
Emily?
I would think that I as the
Oh.
back would be
Shamshinia, yes.
There we go. Very
would
good.
be the literal backup.
Next item is approval of the minutes, January 5th, please.
I move to approve them as written.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor, Diorio abstain.
Relwitz, yes.
Lindelof, yes.
Light, yes.
Shamshinia, yes.
Wales, yes.
Very good, thank you. First item under old business is Brushy Brook. It's a preliminary plan public hearing. I believe, Talia, you might have to help me out here. We've got I don't seem to have that with me, but we have a request.
Save a tree.
Would you like me to read it into the record?
That would be very
All right.
much appreciated.
So we've
Thank you.
received two
Thank you.
letters from Mr. Landry. The first is dated February 25th, 2022. It says, "Dear Jim, following receipt of the detailed memorandum from Crossman Engineering on Wednesday and our discussion on Thursday, the applicant is requesting that this matter be continued from the planning board's March 2nd agenda. As we discussed, although the Crossman report has resolved many important engineering issues, there remain others that are not reasonably capable of mutual resolution by the engineers before Wednesday evening, as significant further on-site and off-site activity and discussion would be required. Our plan is to expedite the exchanges between the engineers such that they can mutually get where they need to be and all parties concerned, particularly the board, are able to deal with this matter in an efficient way the next time the matter comes before it, and with information having arrived well in advance. If it turns out that the April meeting is too soon for that, we will so advise as soon as possible. As always, thanks for your assistance. Sincerely, William R. Landry." So we received that last week, and then on Tuesday, yesterday, I contacted Mr. Landry because I realized that the extension for a decision for the board was April 6th, which is your next meeting. So I asked him to write a letter to provide an extension for the decision period for you. And that letter reads, "Dear Talia, further to my letter to the board on Friday, please be advised that the applicant hereby extends the time for the board to act on this application at least to April 13th, 2022. Thank you for your assistance. Sincerely, William R. Landry."
Very good. So, again, refresh me. Is he requesting that he be on the April agenda or?
So I believe his request is that he would would like to be on the April agenda. My understanding is that if the issues have not been resolved at that point in time, they will seek another continuance at the April meeting.
Understood. With that in mind, I'd like to entertain a motion to continue this public hearing until our meeting on April 6th.
Before we go there, I have a question. I went through the checklist for projects of this magnitude. And there are a handful of items on the checklist that aren't being addressed. So while they're doing all that sorting out with Crossman and, you know, securing some kind of stability in the direction they want to go in, because of the sensitivity of this project, I feel that it's imperative that the next time we come with them, they can answer to the missing pieces of the checklist or provide the information required. Because without that, we can't move forward. And if the project weren't so sensitive and large, I think it might be something that there might be areas where we could forgive and give them till the final. But under these conditions with this project, its sensitivity, its history, et cetera, I think that we really need to pursue the items on the checklist, and they should expect to provide.
Understood. So perhaps in my absence, I've missed a couple of steps, but is there some reason that these checklist items have not been forthcoming?
We'd have to ask them, and we repeatedly are put off with the issues with the water. And, you know, we can get promises, and I was going through my notes last night and I pulled out that piece of the plan saying that we promised there's going to be water. And that prompted.
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No, no.
I think
no
we're
problem.
deviating a bit from the agenda, where you're kind of moving into discussion of the project itself, and really what's before the board is a motion to continue it.
Okay.
But I think that if whatever concerns you have, you can identify those to Talia as the administrative officer acting to address with the applicant. I'm assuming at the moment that there is a certificate of completion somewhere in the file, which is how they're before us. So you might want to visit with Talia as to that issue. But I don't really want you guys to discuss that a whole lot more because it's not really on the agenda in that capacity.
Okay with that?
I am.
Thank you for that mid-flight correction. So back to where we entertain a motion to continue the public hearing until April 6th. Someone care to put forth a motion to that effect?
And to add the extension to the 13th as well.
And
I'll make a motion that we continue the hearing to 7 o'clock, April 6th, same place, same time. And the decision date to be April 13th, 2022.
I have a motion.
Well, second,
I have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Diorio, yes?
Brelwitz, yes.
Lindelof, yes.
Light, yes.
Shamshiniya, yes.
Who's delayed?
We all good? Okay, next item, new business. Planning Board election of officers. This is put on the agenda at my request. This is an annual activity. Did not take place in my absence. I appreciate that. So this year, the reason I have it on the agenda for this evening with the note to hold the election on April 6th is I've decided to step away from the leadership position this time around. So I'd like to afford everyone the opportunity to give that some thought, put together a slate of officers that they're comfortable with and be prepared to act on it next month. I will take a couple of moments to elaborate. So two things. The concept of the co-chairs and the composition of the board as we sit here this evening. So I'm sure that when the issue of the co-chairs came up the last time around, I forget whether it was last year or the year before, people were probably thinking, what is that guy thinking about? Well, there was a plan. And the plan was that if two people had the opportunity to act as chairs occasionally, that there would be, if you will, an apprentice term. And that term has come to fruition. I believe that we've had a couple of people step up, acting chairs over the past year. The reports that I've gotten have been good for both. And so I feel very comfortable that that was a good move on my part, putting me in a position where I can step away with confidence, which leads me to the second point, which is the strength and cohesion of the board as we sit here today. There have been a couple of occasions in my tenure where I have sought to step away from this position. And quite honestly, I just wasn't able to do it. I was not able to take my hands off the helm because the strength of the board was not there. And I felt that I would be remiss in stepping away and having the whole thing fall apart on me. That is not the case now. And in fact, I am very comfortable with the strength and composition of this board. So that also gives me reason to say, you know what, I can just take a different position here, become just a full member with no leadership responsibilities and let the new crew run with the ball. So that is my thought process. Again, I would just ask that you give this some thought and be prepared to act on it next month. Everybody good? Outstanding. Moving ahead to setting the time, date, and location of board meetings. Everybody okay with what we're doing right now? Anybody have other recommendations?
I think that if we were to change, we would need to give advance notice to the clerk's office so they can arrange on their schedule when we could even use this room.
Right.
Because there are other boards and commissions that use this space. And I'm not sure if any of them have changed when they're going to be meeting or where as of yet. I could find that out if you are so inclined to change the time, place, date. But that's just something to bear in mind before you make this decision.
Understood. Thank you. This has kind of been our slot for years and years. I don't see that we need to rustle things up. As Talia points out, I'm sure the real estate is in short supply. So unless somebody really has a problem with what we're doing right now, I would be suggesting that we keep things as is.
Excuse me, this is Ron Prowlitz. I'm very comfortable with the way things are going. The first Tuesday of the month, Wednesday, I'm sorry.
You can come on Tuesday.
I apologize for that slip. The first Wednesday of the month seems to be working, and as Al said, it's been a standing modus operandi for a long time.
I almost showed up at 6 tonight. 7:30. 7 o'clock was welcome. We actually had dinner and changed clothes.
All right. I'm good with it.
So I don't know if, do we need to vote on this? Do we need?
No, you
Okay.
can't vote on it tonight. It just says you will discuss. and then
Understood.
vote on April 6th.
So we'll vote for this on next time around. Have we been meeting at 6 o'clock or have we been meeting at 7 o'clock?
Up until recently, we were meeting at 6, which was to give the board more time to explore all the various things that come before you. But I think that the general preference is 7 p.m. I think it makes it a lot easier for people who are currently working to participate, whether you're on a board or whether you want to participate as a member of the public. So I don't have any reservations about having it continue to be at 7.
Let's hold it at 7 o'clock. And of course, we have the latitude to move to 6 if things get pressing. Okay, we'll talk about that next month. Next item on the agenda, Solicitors Report.
Not me.
Who is doing that?
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman, except for the fact that the appeal for Stone Ridge is rescheduled yet again for the end of this month. And I'll report back to you if and when it goes forward.
Okay, very good.
I just want to check. Emily, could you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was concerned that maybe Maggie was sitting too far away from the mic. I was going to ask her to maybe come forth and say that again, but if you heard it, that's good enough for me.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Can I ask about the Revity? Where is that project? Is it still postponed?
That has been appealed to the Superior Court. The zoning board's decision has been appealed to the Superior
Okay.
Court. And the zoning board's attorney is the attorney in charge.
Thank you.
Sure.
Fascinating. Huh?
Yes. Next item, planners report.
Nothing to report.
Reporting that Jim's not here anymore.
I could indeed, our longtime wonderful planner, Jim Lamphere, retired on Monday. And so I have taken up the mantle for the time being. I did apply for the position and I had my interview on Monday. So now we're just waiting to hear what the results are.
Okay, very
Forward
good.
to serving the town in whichever capacity they'll have me.
Well, we're all pulling for you. I think we've made that known. Okay, correspondence and updates. There's apparently a letter from me on affordable housing and a letter from Emily on hydrologic impacts of large-scale solar. I don't know if we need to have discussions on these, or are they simply being reported as input?
They're simply being reported. So I ran this by Maggie earlier. I wanted to know if communications between the board in reference to like articles that you share, even though they have said like no respond comments. And she said that we should include them in the correspondence and updates, which is
That's good.
what I've done.
That's good. I presume that that is okay, by the way.
Yes, those kinds of things should filter to the clerk, and the board member can ask the clerk, please distribute this to the board members. So then that way there's no possible violation of open meetings where somebody might be tempted to respond back. If two or three of them do, that's offline communications. You don't want to do that. So if the clerk says, here's a piece of communication from Mr. Diorio for everyone to consider, and then that's part of the public record, part of the public file.
So in the future, I will send it to the clerk
Yes,
or just and ask for distribution.
exactly.
Noted. Thank you.
And until we have another person in the office, you can just send those things to me.
Okay. Very good. Okay, next item on the agenda is public forum. Waiting patiently.
We also have an attendee,
Oh, outstanding.
but I think we should probably defer to the person who's in the room.
We'll do that first, but don't let me forget. If you
I
would.
won't.
Joe, come forward.
I forgot all about that.
Good evening, Joe Moreau, Old Depot Road. Tonight, I plan on thanking a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, but I just want to mention that at the February 22nd Town Council meeting, there was a discussion about numbers on mailboxes, numbers on buildings, street names, and a discussion about official street maps. What I found out is this has been an ongoing discussion for quite a few years. Talia was also part of that. And it's mainly in case of an emergency that people have their mailboxes with reflective numbers clearly notified. So I thought that was very good. I wanted to thank everyone that was involved in that project, from the planning department, planning board members, building and zoning has taken an active role in that process, and many of the residents were involved also. That next day, I went out and bought 2 larger numbers for my mailbox, just to be on the safe side. Most residents don't realize the work that is done by members of boards, commissions, town employees, elected officials. And I want to say thank you for what they do. I want to tell you a story. I was looking for 50 signatures when I ran for the Director of Public Welfare. And that was in June of 2000, almost 2 years now. And as I was going down the street, I saw Al Diorio and Linda doing some work, and I stopped. And they were kind enough to give me almost my first 2 signatures. And Al said to me, what are you running for, Joe, town council? And I said, no, I've decided to run for the director of public welfare. And Al said to me, you know, my wife and I have talked about trying to help people in this town. And if you ever run into an occasion where someone needs some help, please let me know. So I was elected to that position. So far I've tried to help 26 individuals in our town. But the week before Thanksgiving, I had a call from Scott Billhurst. He had a resident that reached out to him that was in need, serious need. Typically, it's heating oil or it's food. The last thing is usually paying their taxes. So anyway, I called and spoke to this person, and I said, what is your most pressing need? And she said to me, right now, my most pressing need is food. I said, okay. So she said, tell you the truth, she said, I purchased a ham for Thanksgiving, and my daughter and I didn't have any food, and I had to cook the ham. So I'm saying, here's someone that's really struggling. Well, first thing I thought about was Al's generous offer. I spoke to Al this morning about this, and that's why I'm talking about it. Back in November, he said, please, I want to remain anonymous about this, but I think he deserves the recognition and know what he did. That day, him and his wife went to Stop and Shop, called me later on in the day. He'd purchased a $100 gift card to Stop and Shop. I went to he said to me, can I meet you someplace? I said, I'll drive to your house. Went to his house, he gave me the gift card. I called that resident. The next day I went there and I told her what I had, and she started to cry. She said, let me get my daughter. Her daughter came out and her daughter started to cry. And the mom said, guess where we're going today? And the daughter said, I hope we're going grocery shopping. And they did. They went grocery shopping. She gave me she mailed me a card to thank me. I didn't do anything really. So I cut out the name of the person, and tonight I gave it to Al. So I want to give a big shout out to Al and his wife for doing that. The other thing is I mentioned that story, and I always keep the names confidential. I mentioned that story to a town employee. This town employee went to Walmart and purchased 2 $25 gift cards that I was able to help out. We did a raffle at Canachet, 2 and 1 for people that were in need of food. So I want to say thank you, Al. It was most appreciative.
Thank you, Joe.
At the February 2nd Planning Board meeting, the meeting started at 6 o'clock, and I asked Al today if he had a chance to listen to that meeting, and he was not able to do that. I know he's been very busy. It was the first night of Total Live. I want to give Jeff credit where he did several tests. I know what it's like. I just purchased a new laptop, and I'm dealing with one laptop trying to figure out how it works. I can't imagine going through this. So there were some glitches in the program. And I want to thank Jeff Talia, the planning board members, Maggie Hogan, and anyone else that I missed, because it was a very difficult meeting. And what they did to get this meeting to the finish line, we had to take breaks to get it through. So I want to thank those people also. I also want to thank Attorney Hogan for what she's done. I was pleased to see there's a lot of new ideas, there's a lot of new thoughts that have taken place. I think it's well received. I also attended in this room the Zoning Board of Appeal hearing for Stone Ridge or Palmer Circle 3. And Attorney Hogan did an excellent job to present our case for that. At that meeting that we had, the last planning board meeting, Emily was the chair for that meeting. And near the end of that meeting, Talia said, here it is, 3-4 hours later, Talia said, there's one additional call. Would you like to hear this last resident? And Emily clearly stated words to this effect. Sure, as long as it pertains to the topic that we were talking about, which was the Skunk Hill Road topic at the time. So the person came on and said that he had to drop off earlier, but he had one question. And the next thing I know, we're well into 13 minutes. I never heard a question. At that point, I felt like there was a tirade going on. In my opinion, I could tell that Emily was very distressed, I want to say, over this, and I really felt bad for her. She did a great job to control that meeting with all the issues that we had. But Carolyn Light finally had to say, please stop. She said, this is enough, because he was really critical of what the planning board was doing or not. And I didn't think that was right. The next thing I know, Ron Perlowitz piped in and he said, I thought there was a question that you had. I didn't hear one question. There never was. This person just wanted to reiterate the things that he said for many, many times. He eliminated challenging building permit and supermajority, and I was glad to hear that. But that reminded me of something. I was opposed to this at first. Frank Landolfi, one of the things that he did with all of the hearings and meetings we had, I got to be that there were so many people that he limited the discussion to 5 minutes or less per resident. And I didn't think that was right. So I wanted to give it some thought and see how it worked out. What I found out was the exact opposite of what I thought. It worked out very well because you had people that were concise. They stayed right on that point and they said what they had to say. What he did was he said, once everyone has spoken, and the abutters went first, he said, once everyone has spoken, if time's permitting, we will allow another 5 minutes. So people walked out of those meetings and they had to say what they felt they had to say. And I think the meetings were much better that way. And this past planning board meeting kind of reminded me about that. My suggestion would be, and I know there's a lot coming up on the agendas, I thought that the attorneys, the witnesses, the staff should have as much time as they need to make their presentation. I think the abutters within the 200-foot radius should have as much time as they need. I would like to see the residents have 5 minutes or less, time permitting. Everyone has spoken, and they could go around the table again. If you need another additional 5 minutes. And when Frank did that, you probably had 2 or 3 people that needed another 5 minutes. Well, guess who one of them was? I was one of them. But anyway, I just think it worked out well. I can remember something that Al had said about a particular project where members of the town council, some members had rezoned the project. It went through 2 different court hearings, and Al was correct in what he said. The horse is out of the barn on this project. Let's move forward. And I think that's what it will do if we can curtail some of this time that's spent for, in my opinion, ridiculous things. What was? I asked Ron to time it for the help.
9 minutes and 4 seconds.
Was it really?
Are you in a butter?
No. So you can see how fast time goes.
You're an elected official. I'm sorry.
He let everybody else here go and then he went again.
Yeah.
So I have a minute left. But anyway, the point is, and obviously that's up to you and you guys have to decide on that. Just a suggestion I had. I just think it'll be better for the planning board. When you guys volunteers and you sit here for 4 hours, the last thing you want to do, in my opinion, is to sit here and listen for 13 minutes of some stuff that you've heard 13 times. That's all I have to say.
Very good, Joe.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind words. John.
Oh, you're welcome. That is skim milk, no sugar. No.
So we still have that one member of the public.
Let's bring it on.
I'm going to read off the last 4 digits of your phone number, 1701. Please state your name for the record after unmuting yourself.
We need the addresses too, right?
Hi, this is Sherry Aronian, Dye Hill Road. Can you guys hear me?
We can indeed.
Oh, good. Thank you. I was wondering if it was possible to ask a question. I'm not sure if the question is to Talia, the planning board, or Attorney Hogan. I'm just not sure. So is it okay if I at least ask the question?
Get it out there. We'll get it to the right place.
All right. Okay, great. It's regarding the land and subdivision regulation document, which is dated 2014. My question is the checklist, well, the checklists, I should say, for the master plan, the preliminary, the final, be it, minor subdivisions, major subdivisions, because the checklists are different for each of those three categories. Is it accurate online, that document? Is that checklist the checklist that you should kind of follow along with the stages? I like to follow along, with the certain project that was going to be before you tonight on the checklist. And I just wanted to see that if that's the checklist that the applicants use, or if there's a revised one out there that document isn't current. I was just wondering that.
So if you're talking about, this is Talia, if you're talking
Mhm.
about what we have posted on our website on our planning board page, not our planning board page, our planning department page, at the bottom of the page, the land development and subdivision regulations, those are our current checklists.
Okay.
So those are the ones that moving forward, and since the land development and subdivision regulations were amended in 2014 have been used.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that necessarily answers your question or not, but those are the
I think it
checklists.
does. So basically, if anybody is, submitting a preliminary or a final plan, they are using those documents. There's no checklist prior to that then that they would be using. If you're submitting a preliminary plan, then the 2014 documents are the checklist documents that you're using.
I believe that would be correct, yes. But there are also checklists for pre-application. We have checklists for administrative subdivisions. We have checklists for master plans, preliminary, final. No matter what stage of review there is, it will have a checklist within our land development and subdivision regulations.
Okay, so that's the current list that everybody, be it any project that's coming before you guys, be it master plan, preliminary, final, those are the checklists that they're using. So we in the public can kind of follow along, using that document as well.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure we were all using the same document because I didn't see a revision date, at the bottom of any pages. So I was, assuming that was correct, but I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, those are the checklists that we use.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Talia. Appreciate it.
Of course.
That's all I had.
All right. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. Anyone else out there in cyber world? Okay, very good. We're ready to move on. Date of our next regular meeting, April 6th. Everybody good with that?
7 PM?
7 PM. If that's what's been going on, that's what we'll do, 7 PM. And if there's nothing else that can come before us legitimately, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion. We adjourn our meeting.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Iorio, yes.
Earlwitz, yes.
Sandalo, yes.
Light, yes.
Shamshini, yes.
Very good. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
That was